Faisal, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mustafa. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you too?
Good.
How's life going?
We're managing, we're surviving, so no complaints.
I was reading about you recently, and I noticed that over the years you've always been someone fixated with the technical side of football, right?
Yeah, I don't know. If you ask me, what, maybe 15 years ago, if I was going to go into that direction, I probably would have said you're mad. Because,
How?
yeah, no, it's, you know, when I was done playing, I never thought I was going to go into administration side of football or coaching or management. I was just looking forward to my career in computer science because that's what I graduated with in Delaware. But then after 6 months into that, I realized this is not for me. You know, although I love computers and I love to play around and all that, that wasn't for me. There was a big piece of me missing, which was time on the pitch, you know, around the game, around football. And then I just got into it as a volunteer. But right away, you know, I found that happiness back. And then I started to look at areas in the game that I can get involved in, and now here I am.
But how did you get into football in the first place?
I grew up here.
I know.
Okay, so I guess that's where the passion came from.
Okay.
And just like every other kid in Ghana, you grew up around the game.
Yeah.
You want to play the game for fun, you know, to begin with. And then you get to know you can actually make a living out of this and still get paid while you're having fun. So, you know, it comes with all the sexy stuff.
Passion plus.
Exactly, exactly. So that's where the love came from, being in the game. And I actually grew up not far from here, Teshi.
Okay.
Where I used to watch, you know, the Charles Taylors, Richard Kingston, Samir J, Eli Kingston, lots of beautiful players have come from Teshi. So I used to watch them, you know, as a ball boy, and I guess that's how everything started.
You actually started as a ball boy?
I did.
Tell us that story.
My time though, look, it was, you know, it was only the rich man's son that has the ball, and usually not the good ones. So when they're not in, that means there is no football to play. You know, so for us to actually have a chance to play, we would just go around, you know, the teams at that time that were training. So while we were serving as ball boys, that was an opportunity to actually kick a ball or find a group of guys together, and then, you know, we get yelled at all the time because instead of us focusing on the game, we actually doing our own thing. That's where it all started from.
Your beginning, how was it like? Not for football, but family side, because you just mentioned that those days, for you to actually have the privilege of kicking the ball, you needed to have a father or a mother who could afford one.
Yeah.
How was your beginning like? Quite humble one?
Very humble beginnings, I would say. My parents were very, very keen on education. Fortunate for me, I had an older brother, Yusuf, at that time that I could look up to. But it was clear to me that, you know, I had to focus on education, you know, and even my brother, it took some divine intervention for him to actually play football, because there were times where he would go out and play and then come back and then tell a different story, you know, until we got to a point where one of our neighbors just said to my parents, look, your son is gifted, you know, so you should allow him to play. And my dad was like, okay, if that's the case, then the only time he plays if you get your schoolwork done.
Your homework done.
You know, so that's how he started, and I just, you know, was watching the whole thing play out, and I got into it as well. And then I think the breakthrough for us, more for him, was when he was invited to the national team.
Yeah.
And that's when I think my parents realized, you know what, maybe we should allow him to do it. And he was very successful with it. At the same time, he was still studying. We all had to help, because at that time, I remember when he would be at national team camp, I have to drive to KNUST, Kumasi Poly at that time, pick up his lecture notes, find a way to get it to him in Winneba at that time, the national team.
Wow.
He would come home on Friday, take his exams, go back the next day on Monday to camp. So I watched all of that.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. So But he managed to do it, and that's when I realized, you know what, I could actually do it as well. And then I just followed the pathway. So credits to him. I think he laid the foundation and pathway for me.
In terms of the level that you wanted to get to, kicking that physical object called football, did you get it?
I think so. It was difficult, but I think so. Yeah, I think so.
But you know, Yusuf dominates the conversation when it comes to playing the football. But you hadn't come into the picture. Tell us the whole story of your football career and all that.
It's not as sexy as Yusuf's career, I can tell you that. But for me, again, I started from the coast football.
Yeah.
You know, just like every other kid, and you just play the game because you love it.
Yeah.
But then I was fortunate enough, you know, throughout the course, I went to Prempeh College for my senior secondary school. Again, still played. I captained the team to the 2004 group that won.
Sounds there with Capito.
The Miller Games at that time.
Okay.
And then I was very privileged that I received an athletic scholarship to go to US and study and play at the same time. At that time, I wasn't really, you know, keen on doing it. You know, I didn't think football in US at that time was big. But I also knew that was the only opportunity that my parents would allow me to play.
Yeah.
You know, so I accepted the offer, and then I moved to Tennessee. At that time, I had no clue, you know, where I was going. I was just happy to go play and study. You know, it's something I really wanted to do, knowing very well that after graduation, I could always come back and continue to play and hopefully wear the Black Stars jersey.
Yeah.
Never really got there, to be fair.
Yeah.
Maybe I wasn't good enough, but who knows?
Or maybe you were good enough, but you were not lucky.
Maybe.
Okay.
That's very true.
Yeah.
There's tons of players that don't make it because of luck.
Yeah.
But I guess that would also give me a different direction, you know, as to how you see football. So I was fortunate. I did that for 4 years. From Tennessee, after 1 year, I moved to Delaware for my 3 years. Graduated that, enjoyed the NCAA competition, which for me was great.
Yeah.
I wish it's something we could do here, but that's a conversation for later. But really, you know, gave me the platform and opportunity to say you can combine both football and education. You know, at that time I didn't think it was possible. But then you go to environments like that, and then you realize it's possible because of the system that's been built around it. And that's only the difference. You know, if we over here, if we can just say to ourselves, it is possible, and if we actually preach that message, I think we can do it. But then I graduated, you know, with that at the computer science in Delaware. I bounced around a bit. My brother was in Sweden at that time, so I went to Sweden. I tried my luck. Nothing really was coming up for me. So then I went back to the States and then started my career in computer science. You know, as a desktop
You actually wanted
engineer.
to still play the football, right?
Yeah. No, I tried. Again, it's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
All I wanted to do was just play for Ghana, you know, just like every other kid. So I bounced around, realized, you know, maybe it's not for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's not for everybody. So then I went back, and then 6 months into my computer science career, I realized it wasn't for me.
This is not mine.
So then I reached back to my coach in Delaware and said, look, I don't think I'm enjoying this. I think I want to get back on the pitch. What do you think I can do? And then he said to me, look, you've got a computer science background. At that time, analysis was booming at that time. It was just you know, the perfect time for me. So then he offered me a volunteer position to be on his coaching staff, help out with, you know, laying out cones and being the link between the staff and the players. Then I took it upon myself to invest in performance analysis because, again, I was very good with the computers and how to manipulate that. Then I started my coaching licenses as well, just to understand football a bit much better. Than being a player. You know, it's totally different when you play the game. You always think about yourself only. But when you get to coaching and how to teach that and transfer that knowledge, you need to understand people.
Yeah.
You know, so I took my badges took all my performance analysis courses, started as a volunteer, no pay. 6 months in, I realized this is what I wanted to do. So I quit my job and I went into football as a volunteer.
Wow.
Luckily enough, my wife was very supportive at that time.
Yeah.
I married very young, so she understood that this is where I belong. So she held, the relationship and the financial support and all that while I quit my job into football. Then after 6 months, I got offered the full-time position as one of the assistant coaches, and that's where everything started.
That's where everything started. But do you have some disappointments because you never played for the national team?
Yes, because I always wanted to wear the jersey and stand in front of the crowd and sing the national anthem. That's all I wanted to do. But again, I realized quickly that it wasn't for everybody. If you look at the number of kids or population in Ghana, only few that would get the privilege to actually do that. I even know that more now because of what I'm doing. That it was a privilege to actually play the game first. But you can still help, grow the game, which is exactly what I'm doing now.
At what point, Faisal, did it occur to you that I could become one of the biggest technical brainers we have in football?
I don't know if I'm one of the biggest.
I'm just citing an example.
I get people tag me with that a lot, but anytime I hear that, I question myself, like, is it me?
That is you. I'm talking to you.
I know. I still ask myself.
You still ask yourself, but because if you take a look at people within the game, and people listen to you, people talk to you, they go like, this gentleman, his understanding of the game is on a different level.
No, I still think I've got more to learn, and I even more now after meeting Arsene Wenger, who privileged to work with.
Yeah.
He's still learning, and he says that all the time. For somebody who's done everything in the game.
We learn daily, but that does not take away the fact that you are still considered one of the guys with some of the biggest brains when it comes to football within the region.
I think I'm still learning. Honestly, I'm still learning. I think for me, what I've chosen to do, and it's something that I wish Africa would do more, is to try and share more. We don't do that a lot in this region and this continent. For some reason, people feel, I know this, so I get to experience this. I want to keep it to myself, and I don't want to share. And I don't think it helps us grow.
So what really motivates you?
Just to see people get the opportunity to live their dreams. I was given that opportunity at a very young age. And my former boss said to me, look, you're in a very privileged environment. If you ever get to a stage where you can give back what was given to you, don't hesitate. And that's been, one thing that I've always carried with me, that if you find yourself in a position to share more or to give opportunity to kids or anybody at all for them to live their dreams and be better, don't hesitate. Don't hesitate at all. And that's how I've lived my life in football and outside football.
How important was it for you to accept that volunteer role that was handed to you by your coach?
It was a very, very tough decision to take. And the reason why I did that was I wanted to invest myself more and educate myself more in football. And my 9 to 5 at that time was really taking a lot from me. There were times where the team is traveling that I can't go because I have a 9 to 5. There were times where I can't get to practices early because I have a 9 to 5. I wanted to be in the discussion about the game, and I wasn't really getting that. The little time that I had was just being on the field. I enjoyed it, but I knew there was more for me to learn. And if I have to teach more, I have to learn more. So I made a decision. As I mentioned, my wife at that time was very supportive. I think that was the difference maker for me, that she understood what I wanted to do and what I was willing to give up, to invest myself into this. It was very difficult.
In other words, combining the two was quite a difficult thing to do.
The way I wanted to do it, it was going to be difficult. I wanted to be in there at all times.
Talk to us about the journey to Charlotte FC.
It's quite interesting one.
One of the biggest stepping stones you've had?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And it happened in the most difficult moments. I won COVID.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
it was around COVID, yeah, I remember.
Charlotte was awarded a franchise at that time.
Yeah.
I think it was just a couple of months later and then COVID hit.
Yes.
So the whole world came to a standstill. And for the club,
Yeah.
it still had to move. You know, it still had to put the pillars in place. It was a brand new club from scratch, so there were a lot to be done. And I also saw an opportunity to jump out of the college game into a much more professional environment where I could, do football 24/7. I enjoyed my time in the university games at that time, but I wanted more, and in the US, you really, if you want to combine both, it's just not a lot. We only play about maybe 3.5 months during the whole year. The rest is administration. So I went in an environment where I was talking about the game 24/7, and around that COVID time, the opportunity came for me to apply to Charlotte. I went to interviews and I don't know what they saw, but they gave me the job.
If we cut you and take a look at your blood, I think it will be round balls, because
Maybe.
the ball is in your system.
Maybe. Maybe. So then I jumped on it. But before Charlotte, I also worked with the Philadelphia Union. I need to say that because they really gave me that opportunity to be in that professional academy environment in the first team, to see how things work, how to transition from youth to senior team football and what to do, how to recruit. That's when I really learned about talent identification because it was totally different.
How do you identify talents? That's one area, because we always say you need to identify the talent. You need to identify the talent. How do we identify a talent?
It's a very, very difficult thing to do. I don't think it's easy. I don't think there is a blueprint and a formula for that. I must say that. But then it comes down to what you believe in, what your club philosophy is, and how you align that to your talent ID philosophy. Training scouts as well. But in short, I don't think there is one way to do it. But once you educate yourself in that environment, it becomes a little bit easier. At the end, you want to look at a kid now and predict the future of that kid. It's impossible to do. I don't even know what tomorrow is going to bring for me here, let alone predict the future of a kid who is 5-10 years life ahead of him. So really it's a difficult thing to do. But like I said, once you have structures and policies and much more educated in that environment, you feel comfortable to say, you know what, this kid may potentially become one of the best in the world. It's not an easy task.
If you just joined us, we are having a conversation with FAISAL CHIBSAH, a high performance specialist with FIFA, and he's been talking to us about his life journey. His life is basically football. I think his DNA is football. And one thing I would like to actually understand is the role high performance specialist. What actually is that about? But we'll get there pretty soon. FAISAL, tell me, if you take a look at your journey all the way to Charlotte FC, and even at Charlotte FC, you were the head of recruitment, right?
Yeah, I was head of academy recruitment,
Head of academy recruitment.
Yeah.
And that actually meant that you had a responsibility of getting talents that was suited into the Charlotte FC model.
Yep.
And subsequently build a team that can compete in the LMS, right?
That is true. That is true. That was the task. And it was a difficult one. If you look at North and South Carolina, which is where the team was based, huge. I think over 50 million people we are talking about here. So to begin with, you have to understand the football landscape first.
Wow.
The culture of North and South Carolina as well. You also have to understand the club's vision and the club philosophy. What kind of footballers are we looking to bring on into the first team? The profile of positions. You need to understand all of that. So even though I was the head of the academy, I was also working with the first team department, because at the end, the talent we spot and find and bring into our development should be the ones that we think can compete in the first team in the MLS. So I had to help with defining the club philosophy, the model of football, the profile of players in each position, what are our talent predictors, because talent could mean anything. Somebody with height is a talent.
Yeah.
Somebody with speed is a talent. For us, so we needed to define what talent actually means first, and that has to be shared across the club, and then the scouts that we're working with, and then the clubs around us as well, because a lot of what we do depends on your job.
Yeah.
So when they are identified players, we can go everywhere.
Yes.
So it's important that we form networks all around the north and south of Carolina and beyond, so that way when they are recruiting players, they can think of what it takes to play at Charlotte.
Okay.
So we have to provide them with that education as well and resources, so they make our job become easier. So again, you're managing a lot of pieces when it comes to talent identification and educating a lot of people as well.
So the jigsaw was quite huge that you needed to fit in.
Yeah. Yep. So I needed to understand that landscape first before I can actually go out there and talk about, who
So
would be.
what was the definition of talent for you in driving the Charlotte FC agenda?
So we came up with what we call talent indicators that when we go out, we look for, and that's what the club came up with. Every club I think should have their own, because football is not one way. It's different, however you say it. So those 5 predictors is what we would educate, our scouts and clubs on that. When you are developing players or looking for players in your environment, please look out for these key, qualities and characteristics here, because we have interest. We look at intelligence, we look at mobility, we look at technical ability, we look at aggressiveness. And again, not to say this is what you should look for, but this is what the club came up with, because that's what we sort of think is a DNA in every player that would fit in our environment and eventually to the first team. But a lot of education has to be done in terms of scouts and coaches for them to see football the way we want to see football.
So how long did you do that?
I was in Charlotte for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad because FIFA came knocking after a year, and it was really a job that I enjoyed, because I walked into an environment where there was nothing.
Yeah.
I had to come up with a department, find scouts, hire people, come up with all this education. So really it was an opportunity for me to build something from scratch. And it was going very well. I was really enjoying it, to put it together.
Fun.
I did, really did. But I just didn't, stay long enough to see everything come to a conclusion here. But I was happy to see that some of the kids we identified at that time have now signed for the first team. So clearly it tells me we were up to something good,
So like how many players made it to the first team?
2, I think, have signed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, one very young, a 17-year-old, who had his debut against Chelsea. So imagine a 17-year-old signed to first
Yeah,
team
your
contract.
fingerprints are already everywhere.
Yeah. So I was hoping, to go back and I think I'm probably going to go back someday.
You're probably gonna
Someday.
I think the fans of Charlotte FC will be happy to hear
No,
that.
for me I want to, because unfinished business for me. We started something really, really good, and I wanted to see it. I wanted to be there when the first academy graduate move into the first team. Unfortunately, I've missed it, but I think there is still more to come.
At what point did FIFA come knocking?
FIFA came in. It was a very long discussion, to be fair, because I had just joined Charlotte at that time, only a year into the job, and I didn't want to leave after a year, because I was given a lot to manage, and we've already started something really, really good. So to leave in the middle of it, it just didn't feel right for me. But when FIFA comes, and you listen, and an opportunity to come back home and work in the continent, which I've always wanted to do, it was tough decision. But I think we started a discussion around towards the end of last year, I would say. That's when they came in, they flew me to Portugal, we met, we spoke. I went back to Charlotte again, about 3 months before we actually decided, you know what, I want to do this. And again, credit to Charlotte, because when I went back and told them about the opportunity, they were really, really happy for me. You know, they said, look, this is FIFA, this is the highest governing football in the world. You have an opportunity to go back home and you know, help grow the game here. So we are sad to lose you, but we also do think this is good for you, not only you, but for your country and your continent. So you're okay to go. And that was it. You know.
I'm kind of interested in this because if you take a look at your trajectory within the technical space of the game, where at Charlotte FC within a year FIFA counts knocking, it probably tells you that whatever you were doing, there was another person who had an eye on you.
Yeah, a lot of people.
So how did that get to the attention of FIFA, for FIFA to go like, this is the guy we need for Africa?
So before FIFA came, or before I even accepted the Charlotte job, I had applied for a job here in Ghana. I'm not going to talk about that job.
I will touch on this. I'll definitely touch on it.
I applied for a job here in Ghana.
Yes.
Didn't get it. Maybe I wasn't good enough at that time. But I spoke to a few people about it before I actually went in. But credit though, because when I was brought in for an interview, I thought it went pretty well. So that alone, you know, said to me, you know what, you can give something. There's something there. It was too early at that time, maybe, but right around that time, I spoke to a very, very important figure. People know I'm very close to him now, in the likes of Anthony Buffo. I think you wouldn't want me to mention his name, but
I know.
I think
I know how Tony works, so it's understandable.
But I think it's fair that I do that.
Yeah.
And you know, we spoke a lot, and you know, he advised me that you're still young, just continue doing what you're doing. There's going to be a big opportunity. At that time, we both didn't know it was going to be FIFA.
Actually,
and,
there's no elevator to success. You must go through the stairs.
And that's one thing that Tony says a lot.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing he actually told me
Yeah.
when we started talking. So we became very close.
Yeah.
I would bounce ideas off him. It would involve me in some of the stuff the PFAG is doing. So I really kept close contact with him. And then when the opportunity came for FIFA looking for somebody here on the continent, he thought of me.
Yeah.
He thought of me, so he spoke to me about it, and I said, okay, this is FIFA, I'm interested. I want to learn more, to be fair, but I'm also, you know, I want to explore that opportunity and see how far that goes.
Yeah.
So then I sent in my CV, a bunch of others sent in theirs as well. I went through a series of interviews. It was, you know, it wasn't like, here you go, here's a recommendation from Mr. Buffo, so you're good to go. No, I had to go through interviews and all of that. So maybe they saw something.
Yeah.
And then everything just started from there.
Has it been fun doing the FIFA job?
Yeah.
Just, okay.
Yeah.
A FIFA high performance specialist. What does it mean?
So a lot of people ask me this question: who's a high performance specialist?
Yes, what does
I
it
think
mean?
high performance really is becoming a buzzword now.
Yeah.
But if you are coming from rugby, you know this is, you know, this has been there for years.
Yeah.
But in football, I think we're beginning to understand what high performance now. But really, if I could break it down to the simplest form, I would say, you know, doing the right things at the right time all the time for a long time, which is tough to do. Even in our normal lives, it's tough for us to do that. So to do that in football really was a tough thing to do. And you can tell, you know, the top countries and the top clubs do that very, very well, where they look at the whole ecosystem and look at areas where they can maximize, and then areas where even they're not good at, they can, you know, find ways to improve on it. Yeah. But really combining science and data and football, you know, much more objectivity into the game of football. Not to say subjectivity is bad, it's not, but you really have to find the balance, you know. But once you are able to be more objective in how you make decisions and how you communicate that and teach that, I think you're really living a high performance life, you know, on the field, off the field, even what you eat, what you say, rest, all that goes into living a high performance life. So like I mentioned, the simplest form is doing the right things at the right time all the time.
So what basically?
So my job now, again, it really, this is a new program that FIFA has brought to life, where when Arsene came in as the chief of global football, he was brought in to help grow the game globally. And goal 6 of FIFA's vision now is to increase global competitiveness. So FIFA wants to get to the point where 50 countries are in a position to compete and win the World Cup. As it stands now, it's only 2 confederations. You only have UEFA and CONMEBOL that have really won the World Cup or played in the Final Four. Nobody else, in regards to other federations, have gone that far. So FIFA is also saying, okay, if that's the case, what can we do to the rest of the confederations to help everybody,
to give them equal opportunity
to compete? And that means talent development, because there is talent everywhere. But if you're not really living a high performance life or practicing high performance and giving every talent a chance in your country, then you're not maximizing your potential. So they form a small team around Arsene to work with the countries in talent development. So we look at the talent development ecosystem, national teams, coach education, academies if there is one, talent ID and development, domestic competitions. We go into the countries and analyze all those areas and then come up with some recommendations. Not what FIFA thinks, but based on what the rest of the world and the top countries have done. So we did an ecosystem analysis of the 205 member associations, and then we came up with some of the best practices that the top countries have done very well. And I must say, a lot of credit to those countries, because they could have easily said, we don't want to share this.
We don't want to share this. And you mentioned earlier, it's important to share.
Exactly. We just want to be the best in the world for a long time, so we're not open to sharing with everybody else. But all the countries agreed to do it, and they shared all the information, their practices, the system. So now we collect all that data and information. We've come up with a global report, to say this is where you are as a country, and this is what the top countries are doing. So you can compare and look at areas where we can help you as the high performance specialist put together a strategy, a policy, a philosophy to help you maximize your talent in your country. So our job as high performance specialists is to work directly with these countries.
With the federations.
Exactly, with the federations, and to maximize their talent.
So you're representing Arsene Wenger in Africa?
I don't know if it's the best way to put it, but I'm helping us in, work in the country.
You are the brain of Arsene Wenger in Africa.
I wish. Because that's a very big brain, man. That's a very big brain.
You are the representative of Arsene Wenger.
I don't know if it's the best way to put it, honestly.
But who are you in Africa?
I'm just working on behalf of FIFA for Africa.
And you send your report to FIFA?
Yeah, I do.
You visit countries in the continent, put together reports, educate them on some of the best practices.
If I say educate them, it's like I'm coming with the solutions and the answers. I don't have it. I don't have it. I'm also learning as well, but we play a role as a thinking partner. Let me put it that way, because when I go into those countries, I don't go in and impose. I don't go in and say, this is what you have to do. I go in and say, this is what you have based on the report that was given to you by FIFA. These are some of the things you should consider. Remember, every country is unique. Because a talent in Ghana, the definition of talent here in Ghana is different from Cote d'Ivoire, or Nigeria, or South Africa, or Tunisia, or Algeria. Everybody would have to define what talent means to them based on the culture and all of that. So again, we pay very, very much attention to that. But my role is to sit with the MA, the Member Association, and together find out with some of these solutions. I may not have all the answers. The ones that I do, again, I go back to FIFA, or I can reach out to other member associations that have the answers to that. And then we'll try and compare and come up with the best of solutions. So really, we are all learning.
We learn as we move on. How many countries have you visited so far?
A lot, but we're still more to come.
I know recently you were in South Africa.
Oh, yeah.
You were in Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
You've been
I
to
was in
Mauritania.
Zambia.
You went in Zambia. Was it Zambia? Yeah.
It was Zambia, yeah.
Mauritania as well.
Not Mauritania yet. But I'm still
Mauritius.
there. There's still more to come.
Yeah,
Like,
there's
let's
still
forget about the countries first and talk about where I've been.
The point is that I just want to appreciate the mammoth of responsibility that you have in terms of growing the game in the continent.
Yeah.
So every single member federation of FIFA, which is from the continent, you have a role of assisting them. But like you mentioned, you do not have the answers to everything. You take a look at what they have and what they can add. Yeah. So that basically means that if you go to the Ghana Football Association and take a look at their template,
choose somebody else. Don't choose Ghana Football Association.
Okay.
Why do you have to choose Ghana Football Association?
If you go to the South Africa Football Association,
yeah.
SAFA, and you tell them that based on the report FIFA has got, what you're doing so far is 35%.
Yeah.
You have a 65% more to go.
Yeah.
If you want to be able to meet the potentials of the talent you've got in this country, these are the things you would have to do. That is basically what I want to appreciate.
It's clear now.
You mentioned something. You mentioned that you applied for a job in Ghana. What was that?
It was the technical director position at the FA at that time.
That was the time the FA had mentioned that they needed a technical director. Yeah, I recall that. And tell us, what happened?
Nothing happened.
Something happened?
Nothing happened. No. To be fair, again, anytime I speak about this, I always say thanks to the FA. You know, when I sent in my application, I wasn't really expecting
the job.
A job or even a callback, honestly, because I knew at that time I was still young.
But it's not.
I get it.
Yeah.
Young in the job.
Okay, you were
I
young
acquired
in the job.
some experience.
Yeah, I understand.
I did it. If it's now, I would say I'm much more ready than I think it was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
3 years ago. So, but they still gave me a call back. The president called me. We exchanged text. I went through the interviews with them, but it was a good experience for me. You know, it really opened my eye a lot. I was away for a long time too at that time, so I really needed to understand the football landscape here a little bit more. When I was living, I was young, and I was away for like over 15 years, so a lot has changed at that time. So I needed to understand that side too, to be fair. But in terms of how everything played out, for me it was a big experience. I learned a lot, and I say again thanks to the FA, because I wasn't really expecting a call back at that time, because that's a huge job, man. Yeah, that's a huge job, and I knew there was going to be tons of people that want to work for the Ghana Football Association. So, but to be fair, again, that also gave me a bit of I don't know what word to use here, but after that process, I realized that you can do more. You know, there's really something special you can do. So for them to reach out to me for an interview, I started taking this more seriously now.
There's one thing I really want to understand. In as much as you felt that you were still really young within the space, you believed that this was something you could do. Yes. And shortly afterwards, you went to Charlotte FC.
Yeah.
That clearly tells us that
exactly. That's why
there's probably something within you that the panel you met did not see, but the people who set up.
I wasn't good enough. That's what it is.
That's quite subjective.
Yeah.
Good enough is subjective, because what you might say is not good enough. It's actually better for someone. Yeah. So, disappointed you didn't get a job?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't disappointed at all. Like I said, when I threw my name in the hat there, I wasn't really expecting anything. But this is Ghana Football Association. To be the technical director for Ghana Football Association, it's a massive job. Massive job.
To be a FIFA high performance specialist for Africa, it's a much bigger job.
Okay. Now, okay, I get it. But I'm saying at that time, it's a massive job.
Yeah.
A massive job. And to be even considered for that role, for me, it was more than I expected.
again, I'm still not satisfied.
I know what you want, but you're not gonna get it. I know exactly what you want, but I think
So-
this is enough for the public.
What would Faisal had brought to the football space in Ghana if you were given the role of a technical director?
Very, very good question. At that time, I felt we needed a bit of structure, needed a bit of discipline,
Yeah.
bit of direction as well. And we needed somebody just to lead, football in the country.
Yeah.
And that was those things that I was hoping to bring. I've seen structure, I've worked in structures, I've been in the youth development, so
Yeah.
I understand the youth. I know the opportunities that are out there. I understand the culture because I'm from Ghana. I grew up here, so I lived through the coast system and all that.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I was really, really looking forward to bring is the discipline
To the game.
in terms of manning a technical directorate there. And again, when you travel around Africa now, you realize what African is not so much of the technicalities of the game, but really it's just the discipline to do the right things all the time, okay, every single time for a long time.
Yeah.
That really is where I think Africa is lacking.
What are the right things?
The right things is just when you put up a structure that you may have an idea of, you may not, but there are avenues out there where you can learn all this. Like if you're the TD and you go to FIFA right now and say, I need a structure put in place to identify talent all across Ghana and put them in an environment for them to grow to the senior team, FIFA would help with that. Okay?
Yeah.
FIFA would give you all that help.
Yeah.
But then when FIFA gives you that help, it's up to you to come back here and see to the implementation. What is right, what has to be done, who are the people that we need to put in positions
Yeah.
with the right qualification and competence.
Yeah.
That's where the high performance life comes in, because if you're not really motivated, it's easy to just, plug in things that may not be right. And that's where we're lacking.
Based on what you've witnessed so far, you didn't get a job. Someone else got a job, but based on what you've witnessed so far, are there more things that we need to work on?
Of course, yeah. And this is not just Ghana, this is everywhere. Even the top European countries will still tell you there's more to do. So there is always room to improve for sure. But again, of course there's more to do here, let me put it that way.
Tell us, in terms of percentage, and based on the FIFA Global Report, in terms of percentage, where is Ghana?
I can't speak about that.
No, it's not.
No, seriously, I can't. It's very confidential.
No,
it's
I
a
really understand
contract
that. I really understand that. But I want to have an idea about how much of work that Ghana must do.
I don't think you even need the report. You can look. You've been in the game for a long time.
Yeah.
If I ask you right now, a kid in your village.
Yes.
What's your village?
Do.
Where is that at?
It's in the northeast region.
Northeast region. Okay. Do you think a kid up there has the same opportunity as a kid in Accra?
No.
When it comes to finding.
In fact, growing up, I did not have the opportunities like case of Accra.
Okay,
Because
so-
I grew up from there.
Yeah. So until we get to a stage where we can see a clear pathway, and say, every kid, regardless of where he or she is born in the country, has the same opportunity as the ones here, then there is more work to be done.
Is that actually what FIFA wants?
That's what FIFA wants. That's not what alone FIFA wants, but I think that's what every country should do. And don't forget, when the quality of football at the World Cup is improving and better, that's when FIFA can advertise that and make more revenue and reinvest back into the game. So it's important that even where FIFA sits, they still keep an eye on the member associations and make sure that football is actually growing and then the level of competition is growing. Because you don't want to lose that. Right now, we will agree that World Cup final is the biggest stage in football in the country. It's not okay for FIFA to sit down and say, you know what, we have this, so we're just going to sit down and relax.
Yeah.
FIFA still needs to keep working, which is why we are investing in this talent development to make sure the quality of football at youth levels, even at senior levels, still remains top-notch. Very, very.
How can we improve our talent identification in Ghana?
Very, very difficult thing to do when you talk about talent identification. Again, just as I explained, every kid, boy or girl, in Ghana should have the same opportunity as the ones that are around Accra or Eastern Region or Kumasi. So you really have to put structures in place. You have to define a pathway. You have to first of all make sure football is accessible to every kid, because if your cousin in the village somewhere else doesn't have access to football alone, he's not going to develop. He or she's not going to develop. So that's where everything starts. That's the basics, that's the foundation. And then once we define the structures, once we define the policies, once we define an environment, once we define domestic competitions, once we strengthen coach education, we educate our coaches, our scouts. This is the whole ecosystem I'm talking about.
I read
now.
a lot about some of the tweets you often put up on your Twitter account. And most often the questions you ask about the technical side of the game. We need lots of improvement in our technical side of the game.
We do, and I think it's not even a secret at all. So
where do we lack when it comes to the technical side of the game?
Let's take our minds back to maybe 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't think, I think this is also out there, it's not a secret at all. We've not had a top coach education course in Ghana for a long time, about 6-7 years.
Yeah.
Not A, not B, not even C, not even A Pro now.
Yeah.
So when you don't have better coaches, there's no way you can develop better players. When you don't have quality instructors all across the country, there's no way you can educate coaches or run courses. So that's an area that again, it's not the fault of this FA because they're just new, but
Yeah.
it's a problem that's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think we have to address that as quickly as possible.
When you watch Ghana football, where do you think we need to improve? When you watch Ghana let's say Premier League matches, let's say you are watching cold football in a country, and you have toured the world.
Yeah.
You see what others do. Sometimes you are looking at an opportunity and say, oh, even I could score this, but the person has gone to sky the ball and all that.
I mean, it happens everywhere, even in Europe or South America.
It happens everywhere. Sometimes you look at ours and you're wondering the intelligence level of the of the players and all that. So tell us.
Yeah.
When you watch Ghana Premier League.
So I can only measure our football here against or benchmark it to the international stage.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to do that.
Yeah.
Because at the end we develop and we want to compete at that stage, and FIFA and UEFA all collect data and information from all these top games to share with the member association.
Yeah.
So when you sit here in Africa and you look at your football, assuming you're also collecting data and information here, you can benchmark that and see where you stand. You can look at the number of seconds it takes for top quality players to make a decision. You can look at the space. Yeah. You look at the spaces that players have to operate now. How big, how wide, how small. Those are the things that you have to measure. So when you're comparing your game here to that, then you can have an idea and say, you know what, our game here, there are tons of spaces. When you watch the Ghana Premier League or youth teams play, the players have got minutes, to make a decision, even though you can question some of the decisions they make. But then when you move them into the international stage, there's not going to be that much time and space. So when you work in that environment for a long time, and then you move into an international stage where the time is smaller, the spaces are smaller, now it's difficult for you to adapt. So if you have information about that, and it's public, you can begin to again look at your game here and try and at least get closer to to what it looks like in that international stage there. And if you compare the two now, I think we are, we are a lot behind, I would say. Yeah.
Have you had conversations with the FA on how to improve these things? Yeah, I'm very interested because it is our game. And you are a Ghanaian. The development of Ghana football is partially dependent on you.
Why? I've got a role to play, don't get me wrong. You have a role to play as well.
But you have a bigger role to play.
We all have got bigger roles to play
Because you represent FIFA here. So you are speaking to me as FIFA president.
No. Not even close. Not even close. Not even close. Not even close.
Yeah.
I think we all have a role to play, honestly. You know, what I do, it's important. What you do is important as well because kids listen to you.
Infrastructure too is many say.
Yeah, but people speak a lot about that, but I don't think it's our biggest problem. I don't think at all. The biggest problem for me is education. You can still play. I mean, it's not ideal to play football and bad pitches and all that. Yeah. But we can still do something. If we are in a position where we understand the game better, and we know exactly what we are doing, we can still, improvise and put out quality players. Look, the Asians and the Stephen Pierce, they used to play in much more worse pitches than these guys are doing.
I've been to Indafa Park many times.
Exactly, but even still, they made something out of it. So yes, it's important. Don't get me wrong, but the much more important things that we need to worry about than infrastructure.
First of all, let's just wrap up this conversation pretty quick. I am taking you to the Black Stars. What do you think?
I agree with you, 100%. I like the stability in the team now, especially on the technical side. One thing I'm also happy about is the noise around the Black Stars. All of a sudden, it seems like it disappeared. Yeah. Before then, there was just so much noise on call-ups and coaches, and that really is not healthy for a team that's trying to qualify or compete at the World Cup. So one thing that I think our technical team now have brought, which again I'm happy with, is to reduce that noise. So now we have a positive environment where they can try new things, they can pass on the ideas of football. And
well, how well do you think we can do at the World Cup?
How well?
How well?
If we get to the final four, I'll be happy.
Semi-final, you think? We have the quality to do that? I think so.
Remember, we have the quality, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But this is a tournament. Tournament, you need a bit of luck. Yeah. Even the champion team, the champions need some luck. You need to avoid some.
I remember the 2018 World Cup when Germany was beaten by South Korea. No one saw that coming.
Exactly. So you need a bit of luck no matter how you look at it. You have to avoid certain teams early on. Yeah. Because again, once the tournament starts, you build momentum and go into the quality rounds. Yeah. That's when you begin to find yourself. So I'm hoping that we get to the final four. But we do have the quality. So
as an Arsenal fan, how was it like when you met Arsene Wenger?
Oh man, I never thought that would happen. To meet him, let alone work with him.
Share ideas with him.
Yeah, I can describe that.
Have you arrived?
No, I haven't. There is more work to do.
But you see it as a
I think the easy thing is getting there. Yeah. But staying there.
That's the point.
That's now is much more difficult because you have to bring something to the table. You're not just there to enjoy the environment. You have to contribute, and to contribute, you really have to continue to educate yourself.
Sometimes I can imagine the butterflies if you say you are traveling to a member association of FIFA and you don't know what to expect, what they are going to present to you.
I'm telling you, man, because you're walking into a very, very political environment. Believe it or not, football is politics. Yeah. We get it. So what you say, carrying that message is very, very important. You could say one thing that could go wrong. Yeah. So you're very careful with the kind of words you use and how you say it and how you approach it and all of that. That side people don't think about, but really, you have to. You really have to. You're dealing with federation presidents, that can be, we all know how it is.
Yeah.
You know, so there's more for me to learn as well, and I'm learning. And again, it's, you know, the technical side, I think it's easy.
Yeah.
But
It
how
is
to
easy for
translate
you.
that? No, it's easy for everybody. You can learn. You can immerse yourself in that. But then how then do you transfer that to
The
the
field,
people that
yeah.
are around you? You know, how do you try and convince them? How do you communicate that? That's the difficult part. It's the same thing as coaching. You can learn all the X's and the O's, but when you have 28 players in front of you that you have to transfer that knowledge to each and every single one, different background, they all have their own way of how things should be done.
Yeah.
But you have to find a way of transferring this and convincing them to buy into what you think is right. It's a very, very difficult thing to do. You're not going to make everybody happy. You know, some will be upset, but you still have to find a way to get your arms around them and make them feel part of what you're doing. And if you don't have that skill, that soft skill, I would say, there is no way you can succeed in what you do, no matter how knowledgeable you are in football or, you know, tactics you may know. Forget about it. Tactics is just a small part.
FAISAL CHIBSAH, my guest on this Joyce was special, and guess what? I've been well educated in this conversation. I am not too sure that I've ever had a conversation like this. And just like you said, it's a pleasure to work with Arsene Wenger. So it's also a pleasure for me to speak to him and learn from him. Thank you very much for joining us for this special conversation. I am Muftau Nabila Abla. Continue to enjoy the rest of our programs here on the Joy News channel.